Hello. Me? So today we're going to start on Mem Ches Amud Aleph. Right? Massive Rav Yehuda. That makes sense? Shouldn't Naftali?
Yes.
Okay. 48 A. We thank Hashem that they're able to learn Torah every day. So we're learning Hashem English immediately. Learning Lili Nishmas, have a golden Basra Daf and then Sanat Ben Mitzian, and there are 4 Shleimus for Daf Ben Sarah. And Dai gets a little yes, but I think it's better. Okay, we were learning a statement of Rav Huna. Rav Huna's statement was Telu v'zaven zvini zvini, that if someone is suspended, that means he's grabbed and hung up, and they tell him forced. They tell him sell the field or else. So that's a valid sale. That's what we learned. And his logic was that no one sells willingly. Everyone always sells by force. That was his logic. Anyway, we had some questions on this. And that's basically what it came out, that this is what Rav Huna holds. There's a source for it. I thought maybe the source was from Gittin or from Karbanos. So no, that could be different. We don't have a source from that. Those are mitzvahs. Those are different. Okay. Buyer. Yeah. Gemara says no one would sell any. No one would sell anything, not for the fact that they needed the money. So the item that you get is the benefit. Okay, Ma'asev Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, "Get him ma'usa." Get him ma'usa is a forced get. Talking about a woman that wants to get, but the husband doesn't want to give it. So they force him to give the get. How do they force him? They self-defense him. That's what they they tell him that if he doesn't, he's going to get hit or whatever. Maybe they hit him. Anyway, be Yisrael, if it's Jewish people, a Jewish court that's doing this, and it's kosher, then the get is going to be acceptable. In other words, we learned before that the get has to be done willingly. So they force him until he's willing to give the get. Now, what we're looking at over here is that a woman wants to get. That means she hates her husband. She wants out. And the husband really has no benefit from a wife like that. Right? She doesn't like him. So what is his benefit? Nothing. Why isn't he giving the get? Because he wants to harm her. But he doesn't really gain anything from that. So once they force him to do the halacha, to give the get, so this is similar to a sale, where he's not, he ends up getting the money that he needs, and they force him, so he doesn't lose the money, and he's forced. So there's no loss, but he's forced, so it's considered valid. Same thing by the get. There's no loss. He's not losing anything. The wife is not a good wife anyway. She hates him. He's going to have to pay the ksuba. There is a loss.
No, but there is a.
Maybe the ksuba is more than that. Maybe you paid the ksuba. Maybe there is no ksuba. Right? Maybe there's no ksuba. Maybe that was resolved somehow. It was paitake. Money was already, I don't know. Okay. So, ba'akam puzzle. By a non-Jew, it's invalid. If a non-Jew if a non-Jewish court, this is interesting because this is, I don't know what the New York get law is. I never looked into that. I know there's such a law, but in Israel, I know that there's, someone refuses to give a get, they'll put him into prison. Some people that didn't want to give their wives a get, they travel to Israel, they run away, they go to Israel, and they end up in prison in Israel. So how does that work? They're being forced to give a get. Yeah, they're being forced to give a get until they say, right, Sonny, until they say, I'm willing to do it. Anyway, if it's a non-Jewish court, then it's puzzle. Now, the problem is that why should it be puzzle? According to Rav Huna, if they force him to make a sale, it's valid. They can force him to divorce his wife, it should be valid. What's this whole thing that only by a Jew? And it says, if you want it to work by a non-Jew, then you have to say that do it. You can't just, if they force him, that's not good enough. They have to force him to do what the Jewish sages want him to do. Like the Rambam, remember there's this famous Rambam. How do they force him to say that I'm willing? That's not considered willing if he's forced him to say that I want it, right? The Rambam said that really every Jew really wants to do what Hashem wants. It's just that the Yetzer Hara, the Nefesh Habamis, tells him that he doesn't. So when you force the Nefesh Habamis, so his inner will comes out, and then he's really is willing. Okay, so
Civil marriage laws in Israel?
Not officially.
Sometimes go by a secular court, maybe because he like got a loan or something. Yeah, it's Jewish. Maybe they should have put about it.
you mean it's encouraging someone to go to Best Din?
Yeah, it's like Jewish knowledge. But if business for Gentiles, like maybe that's how
Yeah. Well, I assume what it means is that this was a time when maybe the Jewish courts weren't strong, and the secular court was strong. That's what I'm assuming. So, so the Gemara asks like this: V'amai asamnami neim agavainti gomer magash. What's the difference? How the non-Jewish court tells it to him. Fact is, he doesn't gain anything by having this wife, still his wife, because she's not a good wife. She hates him, and I don't think, huh? Codependent. Uh-huh. I don't know if they say, is any wife better than no wife? Is that a rule? I don't know. Probably not. Yeah, they were talking about not. They were talking about when she wants out. Yeah, real tzara. So the fact is, he's not gaining anything from her. So what's the difference? It should be considered that it's a good divorce. The Gemara answers, it's Marala was stated upon this. Amar of Mesharshia. Rav Mesharshia taught. Says Dvar Torah fila ba'akum kasher. According to the Torah, really, even if a non-Jew compels the person to give the get, it would be a valid get. Matam amra ba'akum pasal. Why they say that by a non-Jew it's invalid? Why they say that? It's rabbinically invalid. Why did they say that? Let's say a woman wants to commit adultery with a non-Jew. So she wants to get rid of her husband. So what does she do? She tells the non-Jew, go force my husband to give a get. Because the non-Jews were like they were known as the bad guys. So they would go and if that get would be valid, then maybe that's just her way. In other words, really she's not a bad wife. I mean, she's not faithful. She's not faithful, but she maybe doesn't hate her husband. But in order to commit adultery or whatever, in order to avoid that, she wants to get the get. She wants to get a get. So she has the non-Jew force her husband to give the get, and then it would be valid. So the rabbi said that it's not valid.
I thought if she commits adultery, that retroactively creates separation, divorce.
Yeah, actually, not with a non-Jew.
Oh, because that's not.
Yeah. Okay. So in other words, this is the reason why the rabbi said that a get that's forced by a non-Jew is because of a secondary concern that maybe this is just a setup. Okay, but biblically, that would be a valid get. The rabbi said that it's not a good get. Okay, Masiv Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna has a question also on Rav Huna. Rav Huna said that whenever anything is forced, it's always valid, right? Lakach misukrikin v'chaz lakach mi balabayas. This we had quoted yesterday. This is at Gemara and Gittin that you'll see. Learn this afternoon or tonight. Gemara Gittin about the Churban starts with this Mishnah. Someone that buys from the Sukrikin. Sukrikin are these land hijackers. They take over land. How do they translate it there? Extortionist. Okay. So the Sukrikin took over someone's land, and you want that land, so you go and you pay the Sukrikin for it. Then you know that the Sukrikin doesn't really own it because they just stole it from someone. So then you go and pay the original owner as well. You're paying twice.
Why is it that bad?
Yeah. The guy has a lot of money, and this is what they do. Well, Mekhi Batal, it doesn't even help. It's not even a good sale. Whereas a Kasha and Ravuna, V'amai, Asimnami, Nema Agavunsi, Gamra Makne. That's exactly what Ravuna says. Why is the person selling it to you? Because why is it invalid? Because the reason why he's selling it is because he's afraid of the Sukrikin. If he doesn't sell it, Sukrikin just sold it. If he's not gonna sell it, the Sukrikin's gonna be upset with him, putting his life in danger. So we're saying that, so therefore it's not a valid sale because he never really agreed. The problem is Rav Huna says that even if you don't really agree, it is a valid sale because you never really agreed to a sale. You never want to sell. It's just because you're forced because of the money. The hero also you're forced because you're afraid of the guy. So Kasha and Rav Huna. Allah. So it was taught on this. In other words, there was a teaching that was taught on this Mishnah. Amar Rav, that Rav says, Rav Huna would agree that this would be a good sale if there would be a document. If it would be a document, then it would be a good sale. The reason why this is not a good sale is because the person just said, okay, get out of here. Go acquire it. But he didn't, that's not really agreeing. If he would have agreed to the extent to make a document, then that would be agreeing. In other words, Rav Huna would come in and say that this Mishnah only applies with the teaching of Rav together there, that it was also together with the document. If that it would not apply if there would be a document. One second, we had this before that there's Machlekes Rav and Shmuel. Shmuel says even more than that. He says that even if there is a document, the sale is invalid. How's that going to fit with Rav Huna? Rav Huna says the sale is valid. He says, Shmuel this is the obvious answer. That Mishnah is talking about when he didn't give the money. He just agreed to give the money. So then that's not a valid sale. But once he gets the money, then the sale is valid. He got his value, so he mamish didn't lose. He didn't have the field beforehand because the Sukrikin took it over. The Sukrikin, I think, pays. I think the Sukrikin would pay. No, actually, I don't know if they paid. I don't remember what it said. Would the Sukrikin pay for it? Would they force the person to sell it? Or would they just take it over?
Cases you said that they forced them and then paid them.
We had it yesterday. The Sukrikin, right? So Lakach Misukrikin and Migazlan Nachri Heirig Nefashis al Iskim Mamen. No, Leinas and Mice. Yeah, the Sukrikin doesn't give money. Sukrikin doesn't give money. The Sukrikin doesn't give money, but this guy bought it from the Sukrikin, so the Sukrikin gets money, but then he ends up getting the money from the purchaser that buys it from the Sukrikin. So he ends up getting his money. And that would only be that would be a valid sale, and Rav Huna would agree to that, of course.
So, like, if this is a coupon involved, like, you would get, like, the low market value because of the whole situation. Because the guy is paying double, so you can answer it.
It's not changing that though. It's not discussing if it's market value or not. I think because inay nalik arkais. When it comes to property, any price is considered accepted. The concept of what's the actual price is only by other things, not by property. Yeah. I think.
Circumstance would get paid less. And you could probably like last week, the company was already stolen those weekend.
Huh.
So maybe he wouldn't just sell it for 10, in this situation he might get 5.
Right. Right. You're asking a good question. Hill is asking that given the situation, he's probably not getting the full price for the. However, maybe when there's Sekrikin around, that becomes the price. Everyone's property drops when there's Sekrikin around. No one knows if the Sekrikin are overtaking, right?
They set the price.
Yeah.
No problem.
And this sale, somehow it becomes valid because there's a star involved?
Well, Rav would say because of the star. Shmuel says because of the money. Yeah.
So, we learned earlier that someone never loses his ownership of land. Land can't be stolen.
Right.
So we're calling this not being stolen. This is being called a valid transaction.
Yeah.
Even though he's being forced, your land or your life, and that's an okay transaction.
That's why it's so significant for the guy to go back to the original owner and not just purchase it from the Sekrikin, because the Sekrikin doesn't really own it.
Right,
It can't be stolen. So he's buying it from the original owner.
right.
Well,
But you're saying the original owner never lost it.
right. Right. So this is the main purchase. Now the Gemara says, but it doesn't mamish fit because of Rav Bibi, the Messiah, but Mishmeder Rav Nachman. What about Rav Bibi? He says in the name of Rav Nachman, he says, Karka ein lai mois yeshli. We had this, that the Gazlan, if someone steals a field and how did this work? He forced the person to sell it to him. Yeah. What happens is that he says that the sale is so invalid that the guy even has to return the money. Even if money was given, but the Goslin, the robber still gets his money back if someone stole the property and paid for it. Yeah. Yeah. It would sell. So he says that the money goes back. Karka ain't like he doesn't get the car, he doesn't keep the property. The sale is not valid. But he gets his money back. Now, obviously, money is being given. So according to Rabbi Bibi, this is impossible to fit with Rav Huna, because Rav Huna said the sale is valid. Here we're saying that this, even though money was given, the sale is invalid. So the Gemara answers, how can you explain that? So Rabbi Bibi memrahu, a memra Rav Huna le'sfirle. Rabbi Bibi is just saying a memra. What's a memra? Memra is a statement of Amirayim. It's not a Tanaic source. So what the Gemara is saying is that Rav Huna is also a Amira, and he doesn't have to agree with every Amiraic statement that someone else says. He can argue with it. So we're asking a kasha on Rav Huna from Rav Bibi. Gemara says Rav Bibi is not a Tanaic source. Rav Bibi is just quoting another statement of Amirayim. The Gemara could have said that Rav Huna argues on Rav Bibi, but the Gemara is saying that Rav Bibi seems to be quoting it from. He's quoting it from Rav Nachman. So he says, well, Rav Huna can argue on that. Omar, yeah.
What's a secret?
Secret is
What
a
kind of word
secret.
is it?
I think it actually means it means a dagger. Sakar, I think, was a dagger, and the Sekrikin, I think it means a dagger. It was a type of knife.
Show her.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I thought the word meant assassin.
Yeah, it probably became assassin.
Saracen comes from this word. They were assassins.
The word assassin actually comes from the word hashish, because they would drug the people before they would send them on this crazy mission. Yeah, that's what I learned somewhere. But yeah, in high school that was an important lesson. but and maybe it's associated with this dagger, maybe, because you know the kuf is an S, is a what the old Latin C was always a hard C. They didn't have Cicero, they had Cicero. It wasn't Caesar, it was Kaiser. It wasn't ocean, it was Oceanus. It was all the kufs were
That was Latin.
I don't know, one of them. But we switched it somehow. I'm not sure how it switched into the softer sounds. Anyway, so maybe Sakar. Okay. Yeah, when I tried this with this linguist, I tried to tell him a few things that I was thinking. He said I should stick to my day job, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Amar Rava. Rava says Hilchas Telu v'Zaven Smini Zvini. Rava says who's gonna pass him like Rav Huna. Telu v'Zaven. If you hang someone up and you force him to sell something, it's a valid sale. That would only be if you say to the guy, sell me one of your fields, and then the guy goes and chooses which field he wants to sell. So really, he has some choice in the matter. This is what you do to kids. It says which, what do you want? You give them the choice. Like, do you want to eat your broccoli or your string beans?
Here's what Luna says here. So pull them up and
Yeah.
Pulled them up and he.
Well, I don't know if it's. I think it's Talu is being. No, so the Sakrikan are not paying.
Here it says this.
Yeah, so this is a different halacha. This is Talu v'Zaven.
So what's the circle then?
The Sakrikan is just overtaking fields. Now that's why when the guy wants to buy it, he has to. That's why when the guy wants to buy it, he has to go back to the original owner, as well as. I guess they get the Sakrikan out of the land, so he pays him money. Then he has to actually purchase the field because the Sakrikan didn't really own it.
So this guy was just a violent guy now.
No, this is not a Sakrikan.
Who was it?
This is just the gangster. He's a developer. He wants to develop the property, and someone doesn't want to sell, so they threaten him. It's a regular guy, right? It's to sell you one house is blocking the whole project. Yeah. You bet.
Time.
Yeah.
So I thought that was.
Oh, and they go to Jewish court when that happens.
This is bechesed when they give him money. Sometimes the house burns down. There's all types of stories. So the stam. This is only when we give the person a choice which field he wants to sell. Beside the zoo, but if you go over to a guy and you force him to sell this specific field, then maybe that he doesn't agree to. If you would have said, which field do you want? And he would have said, okay, fine, take my worst field. And we would have said, okay, then he would agree to that. But Sadazu, if you want exactly a specific field, then But Sadazu Nami Leiman, even when we say that this field, when you say this field is what he wants, that's not valid. This is Rava, like limiting Rav Huna's din. This is only if the seller doesn't count the money afterwards. But if the guy gets the money and he starts counting it, that means that he's actually interested in receiving the money, and it is a valid sale. No means it's a valid sale. All right? It's if you would count the money, then we see that it's even though you forced him to sell specifically this field, but you see him counting the money afterwards. Also, we would only say this. This is only if he wasn't able to get out of it. We would say it's not valid. But if he was able to somehow get out of it, get out of the sale by doing something else, or avoiding the meeting, so then and would say that it would be a valid sale, even though he didn't count the money, even though it was sadasu, right? All of the problems, but because he didn't have to show up at the meeting, he could have somehow gotten out of it. So by saying he had some contagious illness, the guys wouldn't want to meet with him. So he had COVID, could have gotten out of it. So so then the sale would be good. Sale would be valid. The Hilchas Bekulu, and the halachas by all of them, it's interesting because Rava told me the halacha. Gemara doesn't seem to accept Rava. Even by sadazu, even if he says specifically this one, and which Rava said is not a valid sale, the Gemara says it really is a valid sale. Because the Haisha Kasadazu Damya, because when it comes to marrying a woman, that's exactly like Sadazu. Someone forces a woman to marry him. Is that a valid sale? A valid kedushin?
Shotgun marriages.
Yeah.
It's not valid by Jewish law.
I'm sorry? Has to be willing? Maybe it's willing. Maybe this is considered willing. She says she's willing because she doesn't want to die. Ramar Meimar says, and apparently this is the halacha as well, Talu v'kadosh, kedusha of kedushin. If you force a woman to marry you, then it's a good marriage. Mar Baravashi says, Bisha vade kedushin lehavi. By a woman, it's for sure not a good kedushin. Who was the shleika hagen? Lepika chaso imay shleika hagen. Vafkin rabbanon lekedushin minay. Okay, so Ameimar says that if you force a woman to marry you, so well, the betrothed, right? That is considered a good marriage. Now this is exactly comparable to sadazu, where you want specifically this field. That would be a comparison to the case of a woman, because you don't just go over to the family and say, I want one of the women, right? It's specifically as this woman. That was the halacha. He went to one specific woman. He says, I want you to marry me. So then that we say that's a valid marriage. So that's exactly like where he says, I want this field. And he gives the money. Obviously, by the kedushin, he gives the money as well. And it's considered acceptable. Now, Mar Baravashi says that by a woman, it's not acceptable because since he's forcing her, so the rabbis take away the kedushin. Biblically, you're right. It would be a good marriage. But the rabbis say no. Since you're behaving inappropriately, so therefore they behave with you inappropriately and they take away the kedushin. They make it nothing. Now, the rabbis have the power, even though he gave her money, he said that this money is your kedushin, and she accepted it. The rabbis have the power to switch that money over to a gift. It's not considered kedushin money, so they just invalidate the whole kedushin.
What did it make her giving it back this?
Even though she didn't give it back,
Oh, okay.
even though she's wearing the ring, the rabbi said, "Oh, that was just a gift. It was just a birthday present. It wasn't an engagement or a wedding ring."
Why was that different from the field? Like with the field, if the seller chose what field to give, it was valid. But in this case,
No,
father didn't.
we're arguing on that. We're saying that even if they don't choose which field, even if the guy says specifically this one, we're saying that it is valid. Yeah, and proof for that is that it works by a woman. He says, I want this woman, and we say that it's valid according to Ameimar. Mar Baravashi says that it's not valid because the rabbis take away the kedushin. Now, this is a concept that appears in different mesechtas and shas, that the rabbis remove a kedushin. So the Gemara usually does what it does right here. It says, Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Ravina says to Ravashi, Tenach the Kaddish Bekaspa. I get how the rabbis can do this when it comes to money. They can do it. They can say, oh, the man gave the woman a ring. That ring that he gave to her, Hefker, Bezdin, Hefker. Bezdin can step in and make it ownerless. Bezdin can they can eminent domain.
Yeah.
They can change what how ownership works. Well, if that's the case, so they can take that gift of the ring and they can turn it into they can take that transaction of the ring and turn it into a gift, even though she's still wearing the ring. Say, but with that, we took it away from the husband the moment before he gave it, and we switched it into a ownerless, and now it becomes a gift for her. So that would be fine. But Kaddish Babiyah, my but let's say the marriage was not wasn't done with money. A woman can get married with Kesef Shtarubiyah, could be with money, document of relations. Let's say they had relations, what are they going to do then? So the Gemara answers, you can't make it hefker. There was an act. There was actual relations. Did the rabbis take that away? Yeah. Rabbi said that no, it's either or. But the rabbi said that Rav Mangin among the Mekadosh, Rav would give lashes to someone that did kedushin. See, kedushin is the first part of the marriage. There would be a year in between the kedushin and the nisuin. So someone that did the kedushin with relations, Rav would give him lashes. He said that was not appropriate, even though biblically it's acceptable. So. But let's say this was how we did the kedushin with relations. So what's the bezdin going to do? How's the bezdin going to get rid of that? Amalei. So Rav Ashi responds to Ravina. They said that was just promiscuous relations. They said that wasn't actually a marriage. Hefker. It was hefker. Yeah. There's a Rashbam here that has a pshat which he rejects, which basically I think every time this Gemara shows up, the Rashbam shows up, the Rashi of the Rashbam. Say, and don't say this other pshat. The other pshat is that when the Gemara asks, I understand how when you're marrying with money, so the rabbis control the money. That doesn't sound good. That the rabbis control. The rabbis said that kedushay kesef marriage could take place with money, right? That would be that. So the rabbis can say that. They said that kedusha kesef works. Over here, they said that it doesn't work. This would be a pshat that gets rejected. You see, that's not what we said. We said not that the rabbis control, that the rabbis made up that money is a kedusha. That's not what we said. We said that the rabbis can say that the money is hefker, just like the court can make an eminent domain. So it's not, even though it's a biblical law. But the rabbis can say that money doesn't belong to him. It's a gift. But the Rashbam quotes this pshat that maybe what the pshat is that Teinach kedushay kesef, Teinach kaddish b'kaspa, which the rabbis, this is all acceptable because the rabbis said that kedushay kesef works. But kaddish b'biyah, which that's a biblical law, so how the rabbi is going to interfere with what's a biblical law? So the Rashbam rejects that because he says, even though the rabbis are the ones that told us that kedushay kesef works, that money can make a kedushin, but they told it to us with the Gzeir Shava. And the Gzeir Shava is a biblical law.
So when the rabbis do this, is it like what we would call today an annulment? It's as if the marriage never occurred.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
There is a one detail in this, which is that since it's not so clear how to blend this together, but since anyone that gets married al das that the Rabbanan, he says according to the laws of Moshe in Israel, and since he's not agreeing to do it properly, to do this marriage properly, so he himself is negating his own kedushin. He's not doing it according to the way the rabbi said it. Yeah. The question is, why do you need the hefker bes and hefker, and why do you need both of those? Each one of them should seem to work independently. I'm not sure that's for yeshiva learning. I'll analyze how they're both dependent on each other.
Do the rabbis have the same authority with respect to gerus?
Can they annul a gerus? Officially not. It's done, but officially not. The way they do it now is they say that what happened originally was really not was obviously not fully. They didn't fully agree to it. They would only do that if they felt that they were lied to. If the person converts and they find out that the whole story was false. He really had a Jewish girlfriend, and the father was a rabbi and something, and said that he would never let unless the converts, and it doesn't have to be a rabbi, and then the guy says no, I'm not seeing anyone, and then turns out to find out like a week later that this girl is pregnant, and the wedding takes place like immediately after the conversion. The whole thing was a fraud. The rabbis would say no, this is not this wasn't acceptable.
Same thing about Suba. Like if they said that like he was born and then he wasn't, I would think like it would
By the ksuba, you're saying the monetary agreement?
No, the guy says I'm a Cohen.
Oh, a marriage, not a ksuba, just at a marriage. Oh, if he lies at the marriage, on condition. If he says on condition that I am, yeah. A condition is a different story. He's saying,
maybe the whole there is no condition, but everything.
Oh, you think everybody carries is on condition? I don't think so. I just think that they said that they would somehow say that this was not according to the Ardas. Really? What condition did Rus convert us to? That's an interesting shot. There's contradictions in the book of Rus. When did she convert? There's a bunch of contradictions. Did she convert right with the conversation with Naomi when they left? Did she convert later when she went to Boaz? So Hillel's answering that they made a conversion on a condition. She had to finalize it later.
Conversion on condition.
I thought who told you that, Sean? Let me tell you about that's Sean. I thought it was she did a Reformed conversion, then she did a conservative, then she did an Orthodox.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Would it be easier to analyze this saying, just say it was a mekach taut? I think that would be a much easier way out of this whole situation.
Mekach tos, but the problem is that we're saying mekach tos doesn't apply. We're saying that really everything here is valid. It's only because of, well, according to Mar Baravashi, it's only because the woman didn't agree, and he's forcing her that we're blocking it. It's only a rabbinic law that we're using. Because biblically, the marriage is good. And the rabbis are annulling it. Yeah. Okay, Tavi, there was a gangster. His name was Tavi. Tolala Papi Akinra. He took Papi and he put him. That's another person. And he hung him on a tree, on a Kinra tree. Now there's another shot here that he actually wanted to buy, not Papi's field, right? This gangster wanted to buy Papi's field. There's another shot that he wanted to buy his kinar.
What?
Kinar, I think, is a harp. And he was forcing him to sell his harp. He had a Gibson guitar. I don't know what Gibson. The kids have this song about a Gibson guitar. I don't know where it's from. It's supposed to be fancy. Okay, so this oven, he sold it.
Steinway piano.
Fancy piano. Chosam Rabba Bar Chana Amida VaAshkalta. Rabba Bar Chana signed two documents. One document said that this was a declaration that he's being forced, and he doesn't really want to go through the sale. The second document was this document of the sale. So you got the same witness to sign on both. Amar Rav Huna says, the one that signed on the declaration that it was being forced, which should invalidate the whole sale, signed good. That's a good document. One that signed on the sale document also signed good. That's a good document. You can't have both of those if the declaration that he's being forced is a valid document and the sale is not a valid document. If the sale is a valid document, then he's annulling the annulment. Is right. So the Gemara says, "Hachi kamar ilav meida." If not for that document, man dechasam ashkalta shaper. You see, even though Rav Huna follows his reasoning. Dam Rav Huna to live as Vini. Rav Huna holds that if you force someone to sell something, it's a valid sale. But that's only if you didn't write a document beforehand. That's a declaration saying that the sale that I'm about to do should not be valid because I'm being forced. If you write that document, even Rav Huna would agree that it doesn't work. You see, Rav Huna says that every person that sells something never wants to sell it. So even though now he's being forced, that sale is valid. But if he writes a document that he doesn't want it to be valid, saying that I'm about to enter into a sale that's against my will, and so then that would invalidate it. Gemara says, "Eini, is it really so?" There's two documents. One document is a loan that wasn't given yet. Let's say there's a person that's about to borrow money. So he says to witnesses, "Can you write a document that I borrowed the money and give it to the lender hold the document, and he's going to give me the money later." Now that's a dangerous document because even if the money is not given, theoretically the guy can use it to collect. So that document, it's called amana. It's a trusting document. The money wasn't lent yet, so you're not allowed to write a document like that. Let's say Reuben pulls out a document on Shimon. He says, "You owe me money. Look at this document." They call in the witnesses. The witnesses say, "Yeah, it's a good document. Yeah. We wrote the document. We signed the document. But I have to tell you one detail, that the money was never lent."
Yeah, it's a bank. You write a check and it bounces. So, is that the same thing? Or is,
I don't know.
you know, I buy something from you, you give it to me, I write you a check, which you don't cash yet.
I
You
don't
go
know
to
what
cash
a
it.
check is. No, I'm not sure what halachic status a check has. It's complicated. If a check is considered cash or documents, a check is stam. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, so the amana hayedvareno, if they want to say later on that the document's not good, they're not. It's not. It's we don't trust them. And let's say they say maidah hayedvareno. They say, yeah, we signed on that document, but we were forced. We had a gun. Not we were forced, but the guy that was selling it was forced to do it, and we signed on it, but we know that he didn't really want it. He told us before that he doesn't want to do it. We don't trust him. So why over here are we saying that Rav Huna is saying that this document invalidates the sale? Rav Nachman says that if they try to claim that later, this is like a kivan shehigid shebein achezer magid. Once you testify in court, you can't come and change your. So that document that brought that says that the sale is valid, you can't show up and say the sale is invalid. You're changing your story, and we can't have witnesses changing their story. Gemara says, "Hani mili al peh." That's only if there was no document that was backing the change of the story. Le'asi al peh, le'asi al peh, umare l'shtara. You can't have his word against the document. Aval b'shtara. But if there's actual document, asi shtara umare l'shtara, then one document can come and invalidate another document. Let me just finish the two dots. Gufa. We learned before. Rav Nachman Rav Nachman said that these two statements that the witnesses say, we don't accept them because they're changing their story. First, they wrote a document. Now they're telling us that it's not good. In both of those cases, Mar Baravashi says, if they say we wrote the promissory note, but the money wasn't lent, we don't trust them. If they say that we did a sale, but the person was forced, we do trust them. My time, what's the difference in this? It says, one of them is a prohibition. You're not allowed to write a document, a promissory note, that's the person didn't lend the money. That's a prohibition. So these witnesses, they can't make themselves wicked. They can't self-incriminate. Over here, the other sale where the person is making a sale, but he's compelled, that's not self-incriminating. They're saying that that this sale was done, it was just not valid. But it wasn't self-incriminating. So the self-incriminating, we don't trust them. Let's leave it over here. We're not going to learn tomorrow, but we'll learn on Wednesday. No, we can't. We have to finish all our learning before Chatzos today. Okay.